Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you everybody for being here today. My name is Jason Joanne, and I'm the homicide lieutenant with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And my goal here today is to walk you through our investigation and what led us to the indictment of Dwayne Davis, also known as KVD, for the murder of TUPaC Shakur. This case has been reviewed by our homicide team and homicide detectives for over 2.5 decades. And ultimately, our persistence in this investigation has paid off. Let me walk you through a timeline of events that as we know them right now. Prior to September 7th of 1996, as we all know, TUPaC Shakur was an artist who was signed with Death Row Records. And that Death Row Records and its CEO, Mary Suge Knight, were closely affiliated with the Mob Piru criminal street gangs, and that they had an ongoing feud with the Southside Compton Crips. Dwayne Davis was the leader and shot caller of the Southside Compton Crips. And both of these gangs operated out of the Southern California area of Compton. On the night of September 7th of 1996, TUPaC Shakur, along with Suge Knight, and members of their entourage, which include members of Mob Piru, came to Vegas to attend the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Members of the Southside Compton Crips, which included Dwayne Davis, along with his nephew Orlando Anderson, were also in attendance at the same event. As both were leaving the fight, members of Death Row Records spotted Orlando Anderson near an elevator bank inside the MGM, and at that time they began to kick and punch him near that elevator bank. I'll now show you hotel security footage, as many of you have already seen, related to this incident. And on this incident, you will see TUPaC Shakur, who's wearing a shiny satiny shirt, along with Mary Suge Knight, who's a large man in a brown suit, punching and kicking Orlando Anderson. Following this incident, you'll see hotel security intervene, and then they will leave the area of the fight. Little did anyone know that it is this incident right here that would ultimately lead to the retaliatory shooting and death of TUPaC Shakur. Following this incident, TUPaC and Suge Knight both left the MGM to make their way to a post-fight party, which was to occur at a local nightclub. At the same time, word had spread amongst members of the Southside Compton Crips of what had occurred inside the MGM. And then that's when Dwayne Davis began to devise a plan to obtain a firearm and retaliate against Suge Knight and Mr. Shakur for what occurred inside the hotel against Mr. Anderson. After Davis obtained a gun, he entered into a white Cadillac along with Terrence Brown, DeAndre Smith, and Orlando Anderson. Based on our investigation, this is where we know
No, this is crazy. I can't believe it.
At some point in time, as they were in the white Cadillac, Mr. Davis took the gun that he had obtained and provided it to the passengers in the rear seat of the vehicle. As they were driving west on Flamingo Road near Cobalt, they located the black BMW, which was driven by Suge Knight, and the passenger seat was TUPaC Shakur. And as they turned around, they pulled up near the passenger side of that vehicle and immediately began shooting at Mr. Knight and Mr. Shakur. Following that shooting, the white Cadillac fled the area southbound on Koval, and after our officers arrived on scene, TUPaC was later transported to the University Medical Center, where he was treated medically and died approximately 6 days later on September 13th.
Me too. I'm a huge fan.
My homicide section handled this investigation from its onset and for a short amount of time. And within a short amount of time, what we knew was that we were working at a gang investigation where our victims, our witnesses, and our suspects were all from Southern California and not local to Las Vegas. Within the first few months of the investigation, our detectives knew most of the information I just briefed you on. However, we never
What do you
had
mean
the necessary
corruption?
evidence to bring this case forward and present it for criminal charges. As time went on, this case had been reviewed multiple times by different investigators assigned to my section, but it wasn't until
You were?
2018
Oh my gosh.
that this case was reinvigorated as additional information came to light related to this homicide. Specifically, Dwayne Davis's own admissions to his involvement in this homicide investigation that he provided to numerous different media outlets.
So sad.
In our section, we knew at this time that this was likely our last time to take a run at this case to successfully solve this case and bring forth a criminal charge. It was at that time
It took
that
27
this
years,
case
y'all.
was assigned to Cliff Mogg,
They said
a detective
27
within my
years.
homicide section. And over the last 5 years, my section worked closely, hand in hand with the Clark County District Attorney's Office and followed a systematic investigative plan over the last 5 years. We've conducted countless interviews and corroborated numerous facts that were not only consistent with the crime scene on the night of the incident, but also corroborated and were consistent with the sequence of events that night. This ultimately led to us procuring a search warrant which was executed at Mr. Davis's residence in Henderson, Nevada. And following the execution of that search warrant, in close coordination with the District Attorney's Office, this case was presented to the grand jury, which ultimately led to Davis being indicted on charges of murder.
Nice.
Before I hand it off to the District Attorney's Office, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Detective Mogg and all the other detectives that were not only assigned this case and reviewed this case, but all the other detectives from other agencies that assisted us in this investigation. They know who they are, and thank you very much for all the assistance you provided. It does not go unnoticed. And lastly, one of the most important things, in my opinion, is
Finally.
we need to make this be a reminder that the charge of murder does not have a statute of limitations.
Oh, good.
This agency has been and is invested in solving our cold case homicides so that we can
So
bring
terrible.
closure to those families.
I'm so
and
glad.
justice for those victims of homicide. And with that,
I'm so
I will
glad
turn it
about
over
this,
to the Clark County
finally.
District Attorney, Steve Wilson.
Finally.
Thank you, Lieutenant Johansson. I appreciate it. Good afternoon. I am the Las Vegas Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson. It has often been said, justice delayed is justice denied. It's a quote we hear often and for many, many years.
This is
when
so
talking
weird
about
because
our
they
legal
announced
system.
yesterday about
But not
Susan
in this
to
case.
Morphew.
Today, justice will be served in the murder of TUPaC Shakur.
Exactly.
I'd like to acknowledge the relentless work of the many Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department homicide
TUPaC,
detectives.
Susan.
We've mentioned
What's
Detective
next, Jill?
Cliff Mogg many times, and we can't mention his name enough. He is the detective, along with his colleagues, that brought this case here today to you. A Clark
I am
County
so
grand jury
shocked.
has indicted Dwayne Keith
This
Davis
just like all of a
with
sudden
one
popped up
count
on our
of open
TV.
murder with use
Like,
of a deadly
boom.
weapon with a gang enhancement. Davis
Exactly.
will appear in court in the next few days or so for a hearing to determine his custody status and to set a jury trial date. This grand jury has been receiving evidence for months and has determined there is sufficient evidence to justify filing of this criminal indictment. I've assigned two of my top prosecutors, Mark DiGiacomo and Vanu Palal, to prosecute
I'm
this case.
so happy.
I know a lot of people have been watching.
I'm
and
so
waiting
happy for
this
TUPaC.
day.
Finally.
TUPaC Shakur is a music legend, and for a long time,
He is a
this
legend.
community and worldwide have been wanting justice for TUPaC.
Yes.
Today, we are taking that first step.
Have you really?
TUPaC was actually quoted as saying, "Death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside while still alive. Never surrender." Well, we didn't surrender thanks to the great work of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police
That's so
Department
great.
under the leadership of Sheriff Kevin McMahill Lieutenant Johansson.
I'm so
retired
proud of them
Detective
for
Cliff
doing
Law,
this,
I
for
am
continuing.
proud to announce the return of this document. This is the indictment we've been waiting almost 3 decades for. It spells out the facts and circumstances and what justifies a Clark County grand jury in returning an indictment.
This is amazing.
Justice will be served. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Amazing, y'all.
Thank you, Steve. I'd just like to say that the Las Vegas
Yay.
Metropolitan Police Department Homicide Section year over year solves over 90% of the homicides that occur in our jurisdiction. You won't find that anywhere else in the United States. For those family members that have lost someone,
1996
that case,
was
I
when
want
he
you
was
to know,
murdered.
just like in this case, we're not going to give up. I also say to you that as we begin, we're going to take a couple of questions. I want you to remember in your questioning that this investigation, subsequent arrest, and now indictment is only the beginning of the process. And we are committed and invested in ensuring a successful prosecution as we move forward.
This is
so
great.
With that, we'll take any questions that you might have. Kim?
Have you been in touch with the Shakur family, anyone within here today? And if so, can you characterize?
They're asking questions about the Shakur family.
The family has reached out to my office. I imagine also to Metro. We've been in communication with them. We understand that they are welcoming this news. They are pleased with this news, and they are certainly aware of the return of this indictment.
Do you anticipate them being at court for arraignment of Mr. Davis?
I don't think they'll be at the arraignment. I mean, that's a relatively short hearing, but I know that they'll be involved. I know that they'll want to be apprised of what goes on a frequent basis.
This is so great.
TUPaC, can you talk about any of the statements that you made that piqued your curiosity again or got you back into this case?
Jason, we're not going to talk about any particular statements, but maybe you can address that one. What I'll say is there's a lot that's going to come out when it comes time for trial, but he provides his own series of statements that are very consistent with the evidence that we have from the scene that we've obtained through our investigation. I'll leave it at that.
Can you identify anything that came from the service of the warrant in July that you didn't know before?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I'll say about the search warrant that we did in July, that we obtained information or evidence during
You're
that
very
execution of the
welcome.
search warrant that corroborated information obtained through
Classy
our
girl.
investigation. And I'll leave it at that until we go to trial. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Haley with Channel 3. So I know that this was obviously a big move. Is there anyone else being looked at this point? I know a lot of people have passed away since this incident, but is anyone else being looked at as part of this investigation?
So as I stated earlier, in this case, the only living suspect related to this investigation is Dwayne Davis. All other
That's
three
so cool,
suspects are
Darhilis.
deceased. Vanessa?
Thank you. Vanessa Murphy, Channel 8. Steve, can you talk about the murder charge? He is not the one believed to have pulled the trigger.
Yes, well, under Nevada law, and this is the law in most states in this
Oh,
country.
he didn't pull the
You
trigger?
can be charged with a crime
So who
whether
pulled-
you're directly
Huh.
involved or whether you're an aider or an abettor. We have an aiding and abetting statute, which provides that if you help somebody commit a crime, you can be equally as guilty. The best example is two guys that agree to commit a bank robbery. And one of them goes into the bank with a gun and actually commits
Sorry
the
if I'm
robbery.
shaking a little
And
bit.
the
I
other
grabbed my
guy is
camera
the
real
getaway
quick.
driver. Never
My
went
phone
in
real
the
quick
bank,
because it popped
but
up
he
on our
assisted
TV.
the guy that went
And
in
I'm
the
like,
bank. So
what?
he's equally guilty. That is one of
There
the
has
keys
to be
in this
more
case as well.
involved.
Last question.
Do investigators believe that Davis is
Yes, just to
behind
come.
the plan to kill TUPaC, or was he one of multiple people who came up with this plan?
I think the best way to characterize that is Dwayne Davis was the shot caller for this group of individuals that committed this crime, and he orchestrated the plan that was carried out. to
Oh,
commit this
wow.
Did you say how they obtained the gun or who obtained it from?
We know that he obtained it from a close associate. That a lot of the actual details of who specifically, all that come out at trial, but he obtained it from a close associate of his.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Someone will talk. Yes, exactly. I can't wait. I can't wait.
All right, some very big developments.
Okay, y'all.
In Las Vegas. This is a crime that took place on September the 7th, 1996, after a Tyson fight in Las Vegas. Suge Knight and TUPaC Shakur got into a fight at the casino as they were leaving in the lobby area, which they just showed the video of. There was an altercation. There have been stories about a necklace that was stolen during the midst of that altercation.
My
TUPaC
God.
Shakur and Suge Knight got into the vehicle, and what we're hearing from the prosecutors now
Oh my gosh.
is that Dwayne Davis, who they had long suspected in this murder, purchased a gun with 3 other individuals. They went out and carried out this shooting on the street in
Jeez.
front of the venue where the Tyson fight had just taken place. It was an absolutely dramatic murder shooting that happened, taking the life of one of the most famous musicians and performers at the time, TUPaC Shakur. So this is going to get a ton of attention, and as the detective said, it was a long time coming, and a suspect that they had their eye on for some time. Very
This is
dramatic
amazing.
developments, in this, and the
When it
American
popped
Hockey
on, I
League
just
had a
like,
trial to
I
follow
covered
up
my
for
mouth. I was like,
Dwayne Davis, somebody they had their
nuh-uh.
eye
This
on
cannot
for
be
a
happening. Are you
long time.
kidding?
So in the meantime, before we leave you today on the story, we want to take another look at TUPaC.
Okay, y'all. I'm getting off here.
Elon
Talk to you
Musk's
soon,
trip
okay?
to the border
Bye.
there to see for himself what was happening, calling